Hey Emma,
Yes, Madelyn.
what do you call a schedule of the time that you're gonna play a video game that you've put away somewhere and you don't know where it is?
I don't know. What do you call it?
A hidden Donkey Kong agenda! Hello, and welcome to another episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm one of your hosts, Madelyn.
I'm your other host, Emma. So it was just a schedule for playing Donkey Kong, not video games in general.
Well, there are multiple versions of Donkey Kong.
I'm just saying, needed some specificity in there.
Yeah, well, these things are kind of an off-the-cuff kind of deal, just whatever pops into my head, thinking on the fly. You can't stem the flow of comedic genius
Oh,
with
yeah,
specificity.
of course. You're right. I'm sorry. What was I thinking?
I don't know. You're thinking like someone who is not in touch with their flow of comedic genius.
Well, this week we are talking about Donkey Kong, as well as Hidden Agenda.
Which you probably did not get from the opening joke.
Well, you got one of them. Got the Donkey Kong.
Hidden Donkey Kong agenda.
Mm.
Why would I have just made up a joke that was about a hidden donkey? Like, what a dumb joke. If the hidden agenda part had nothing to do with the episode.
Well, didn't you say that you didn't get that from the joke, or did I mishear you?
What?
You said you probably didn't get that from the joke. Isn't that what you said?
That was a joke, though.
Oh. Well, as you said, I'm not in touch with my well springs of comedy or whatever it was that you...
So this is technically the last Talk This episode of 2017.
Yeah.
Although likely, if you're listening to it, it's probably 2018, unless you're a real hardcore fan who listens. Fun fact, if you
got a whole 12 hours on New Year's Eve to listen to our podcast.
Yeah, I feel like I should come up with one of those memes. Like, if you start Talk This episode at this point, Emma will say, or Madeline will say, "Wipe my butt! Stop playing Donkey Kong!" just as the year turns to midnight.
I don't think anyone wants that from their life.
You would think that, but there are a lot of weird ones out there.
I guess
a lot of
true.
Those weird memes. Anyway, should probably talk about video games. Donkey Kong.
Why don't you tell us about Donkey Kong, Madelyn?
Okay, if you don't know about Donkey Kong, I don't really understand how you got to this podcast. But welcome. We're happy to have you here. Thanks for joining us here on Talk This. Pull up a chair, or a barrel. So Donkey Kong is a game originally conceived in 1981. It was originally an arcade game. It's still really best known as an arcade game. We've probably talked about it a little bit on the show before, not just in passing, but also because we've talked about Mario games before. And Donkey Kong is perhaps best known for being the first appearance of, although he was not titled this at the time, Mario the Plumber.
Of Jumpman.
Of Jumpman. Later to be christened Mario.
Yeah. Well, in the new Mario Odyssey game, for example, you go to New Donk City, where the mayor is Pauline, that's the name of the princess that Mario is saving in the Donkey Kong.
Who thought of that? Who was like, here's the name, Pauline? No offense to any of our listeners out there named Pauline. It's just like I don't know how to say this in a way that is not mean to someone named Pauline. Pauline is a perfectly nice name. It's just, we have a man called Jumpman. and Pauline. We seem to have gone kind of two different directions with our naming there.
Very true. But also since then, Donkey Kong has, like, amassed a family of sorts.
Yeah, Diddy Kong.
The other ones.
Yeah, mostly Diddy Kong. There are other Kongs, though. Fun fact, though, Donkey Kong is not, despite what you might assume, oh, ye gamer who has never heard of Donkey Kong, a donkey. And so it's a Japanese game. And so you maybe have heard of King Kong, who is, the king sort of ape. So Donkey Kong is actually an ape. And he was called Donkey Kong because he's a stubborn ape. Stubborn like a donkey. This sounds like something that I'm making up as a joke for the podcast, but this is real. I promise I'm not lying.
That's a perfectly good justification for the naming. Plus it sounds good. It's got nice alliteration.
It sounds like it's not alliteration, it's consonants. So
whatever.
Get it right.
Consonants.
But it sounds like I'm like trying to mash games together, and I'm like, okay, so there's a donkey in this game, and King Kong. We're gonna make them Donkey Kong, like stubborn gorilla. Anyway, in Donkey Kong, the actual gameplay, it's really hard. I played it at Barcade when we went a couple months ago. It's really hard.
Well, it's like the Donkey Kong rolls down barrels at Jumpman, and Jumpman, staying true to his name, must jump over them as he like climbs up to save the Pauline. Yeah.
And there are turtles, and there are fireballs, and there are occasional power-ups and stuff, and Jumpman has a little mallet.
He does? He has a little mallet? I didn't know that.
Doesn't he?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he does,
You're
but now
the
I'm
one
starting
who's
to doubt
played it.
myself. Yeah, it was really hard. Neither me nor Josh could get past the first level. Like, we didn't even make it halfway up.
What does he do with this little mallet?
He just sort of dumps around.
What?
He's just dump. I'm like hitting the mallet as I'm doing this.
Okay.
I realize that's not translating.
He just, like, is that how he moves?
Yeah, he just sort of has the mallet in front of him and he moves.
Does the mallet serve any purpose?
I think you can, like, hit things with it sometimes.
Wow. Oh, yeah, I was not aware that he had a little mallet, but you learn something new every day.
He's a plumber. What's a plumber without his mallet?
Yes, the plumber is known for using a mallet to fix pipes.
You're not an adult, Emma. You don't know.
It's true.
Anyway, so Donkey Kong is one of those games that is really one of the OG classics of video games. Like, Donkey Kong probably literally has a place in the Video Game Hall of Fame, but if it does not, deserves one. Because it is so iconic. And one of those arcade games that really has sort of stood the test of time. I might not be very good at it. It's certainly not my favorite arcade game, but I can appreciate it. It's hard. It's unforgiving. I can see why you would want to keep playing if you were good enough that you could get past the first level, which I am not.
I mean, all of, like, the trick, I think, is that Nintendo just, like, hasn't really made any new characters since they began, and just continue to use the same characters over and over and over again. Hence why they're more recognizable than other ones.
And yet, have they really gotten that much character development? Like, how much character development has Jumpman gotten in the past?
Well, he's can go shirtless now.
Yes.
That's not really the point of those characters, though. They're not real people.
What?
They don't have real people traits. They're just like little blobs that you can superimpose yourself onto.
What? You're telling me that Princess Pauline is not a real person?
You always do this, okay? Yes, I am. You understand what I mean when I say that. You don't have to make fun of me every single time because that's the phrase I use.
Emma said video games are real. Sorry. Yes, I know they're not real. It is interesting that Nintendo really does make their money on, like, silent... Well, Mario is an interesting case, though. Because, like, I get, like, okay, Link is, like, pretty much silent. He's sort of androgynous, so, like, you can really think of him as a girl if it's important to you that you want to play as a girl, you know?
Well,
Tell
he
me
can
I'm
go
wrong.
shirtless too now, so...
Tell me I'm wrong, though. So, like, Link, I get. It's like, okay, you can sort of superimpose yourself on Link. That's fine. And, like, Pokemon, great. You're, like, literally playing as yourself. Like, I get inserting yourself into that world. But Mario is just, like, weirdly... Like, he doesn't have much characterization, but he does have this weirdly specific, like, Italian plumber thing going on. And it's like, I don't identify with Mario.
I guess. In Mario's case, I guess it's more like, I'm a funny little dude. That's his characterization. And you wouldn't, like, identify with Donkey Kong either. But you're like, I'm a silly ape. Silly, angry ape. And that's all the characterization that you need, really.
Can you do those? Can you do your Mario and Donkey Kong impression one more time?
I wasn't impressing. I wasn't doing an impression. That's like... you playing the game, the player playing the game, saying, I'm a silly little guy. No, silly little dude, sorry. Or,
no.
I'm
I don't think
funny,
it was
angry
a silly
ape.
little... No, it was... Wait, I missed it. I was talking over you. I have to time this out and be like, if you start listening to Talk This at exactly whatever time, I'll say, I'm a silly little dude. Or it is midnight strikes. Let's start your year right.
Yeah. But I don't think I played, like, one of the Donkey Kong games. Like not like the original, I mean, like the ones they've made since then. Where Donkey Kong is the main character, not the antagonist.
Is that really something that we as a society wanted? To be able to play
Apparently.
as Donkey Kong?
He's in Super Smash Bros. Along with
Diddy.
Diddy.
Yeah, okay, that's different though. That's different. Super Smash Bros. Is its own horrible universe.
Madelyn hates Super Smash Bros. For some undefined reason.
I feel like we mention that every month or so on the podcast, so here we are. Just a little reminder that Smash Bros. Is not really that fun, and it's not super. I am not your bro.
Wow. Rude.
Yeah, well, telling it like it is here on Talk This.
I mean, I guess, I don't know, when I was working at the camp this summer, I think people just thought it was funny that his name was Diddy, but a lot of people played as Diddy Kong when they were playing their Super Smash Bros. On the Wii during their downtime.
Yeah, because you want to play as somebody evil in Smash Bros.
But Diddy Kong, I don't think, has ever been an antagonist.
Fair enough.
He's just like he's the Kong with the backward baseball cap.
Yeah, he's got it in his blood, though.
I was watching, have you ever watched game theories on YouTube? They're all just like silly little things of like, but there's one that's like, Mario is like an abuser. That like takes lots of like examples from all his games. And you know, he was like, there's some game apparently where he was like in charge of a circus or whatever, and Donkey Kong was the one like rolling on the barrels, and he would like throw fire at him. So really, Donkey Kong was just taking his like just revenge.
That's so weird.
I recommend game theory if you're ever looking for something silly to do, because they're very amusing and sometimes very convincing, honestly.
So, I can't believe that we've gotten this far, and you were probably hoping I'd be like, let's move on, but I'm not. Because we can't have the Donkey Kong episode without talking about the seminal movie about video games, King of Kong.
Oh, yeah.
So, King of Kong is a documentary, or at least it claims to be. You know, there are some people saying, like, oh, how much did he manipulate the story to create this arc, but whatever. I don't care. It's real to me.
I like that there's debate and discussion about it.
Yeah. Well, it's Seth Green, right? Is that...
I don't know who that is.
Right? Never mind. Anyway, So King of Kong follows these guys who are like the elite Donkey Kong players as they try to get a higher score than ever before. And so you would think, okay, like, that's kind of boring. Like, I don't want to watch them play endless screens of Donkey Kong. Well, it doesn't work quite like that. So something that I'm kind of, like, a little bit fascinated with is, like, old games that would have glitches.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so in arcade games especially, there are, like, you'd think that an arcade game could just sort of keep running forever, right? If it could just keep generating landscapes or even just keep repeating itself. But just because of the way that they had to be coded back then, frequently if you'll get to, like, a certain level that puts you outside of the bounds of the code, I can't remember enough to explain this really well, but I will put up some articles this week about this because it's really interesting. It'll, like, spill over into the next section that, like, deals with something else and mess up the whole game. So not only are these guys trying to get higher and higher scores than ever before, but it's not even just about surviving longer. It's about, like, Donkey Kong has a kill screen. Like, you can't play past a certain level on Donkey Kong, so you have to get all your points before you hit that level. Where, like, basically, like, the reason the Donkey Kong kill screen happens is because you have a certain amount of time to finish each level. Like, you can't just jump on barrels indefinitely. And when you hit that level where the input sort of overflows, it puts your time down to, like, it's too short. It's impossible to get up the whole thing. You'll die every time. So I think that's really interesting. It happens in Ms. Pac-Man, too. They have a kill screen. It's something that's pretty common with arcade games. And I don't know. I think that's just really interesting. Anyway, that's what King of Kong's about. They're trying to get, the most points. And it features the immortal quote, which I mentioned earlier. And people who haven't seen King of Kong are like, what is Madelyn talking about? But, okay. So these guys were obsessive about Donkey Kong, right? They have to hone their skills. They have to get their 10,000 hours in. And so this guy is, like, playing Donkey Kong, I think in his basement. And he's got kids, right? Because somehow, I don't mean to stereotype, you can love video games and you can still have a family and a happy life and whatever. And, like, we're not
You heard it here first, folks. You're
we're
not
trafficking
alone.
in,
You are lovable.
You don't
in
have
your
to
own way.
be in the Big Bang. You don't have to, like, be a Big Bang Theory nerd to like video games, okay? It's fine. But these guys are obsessive about it. So it's a little bit surprising that they also have normal lives, just given the level of obsession that they have with anything, let alone 1981's Donkey Kong. But so he's got his kid, like, comes down, and the kid, like, wants his dad's attention. He's like, finally he says, "Wipe my butt! Stop playing Donkey Kong!"
Is it that way around? I thought it was the other way around.
I've always thought of it. Maybe he says it multiple
Stop
times.
playing Donkey Kong.
I thought it was the other way.
Wipe my butt.
I think it has a better rhythm.
I've only seen this movie once.
I don't think I've seen it more than twice. It's still quality, though.
Where were we even watching it? I don't remember.
May. We watched it at Cape May.
We watched it at Cape May?
One summer, yeah.
Wow. What a beautiful family movie, honestly.
About connection.
Watch this with your whole family.
I should do a watch this on King of Kong.
You should. That's a good idea. Is it on Netflix?
I don't know, but I'll add it to my list for the new year. Oh, man. I told you all of my plans. And I guess they're not a secret anymore.
Wow. That was a beautiful transition.
So let's talk about people who don't do that in Hidden Agenda.
Wow. Wow, that was something.
It was from the fountain of comedic youth.
Alright, so, Hidden Agenda is a game from Supermassive Games, who also made Until Dawn. Have you heard of Until Dawn?
I heard of it in my research.
Okay. I think Sony put out sort of like a call to a lot of its partner developers, like people who make their games for just PS4, saying like, hey, we've got this new PlayLink system where everybody can play using their smartphones and make it like a party game thing, so you can have like, however many players you want playing a game. Can you make a game that uses this system? And Supermassive was like, yeah, sure. And they decided to make sort of like a Law and Order type story, any sort of cop show, honestly, where you and your friends, like it's a decision-based game, so you make decisions that take the story in different directions. But the twist is that somebody in your group has a hidden agenda for a certain decision, and they have to try to either convince the group to go over to one side or use like a takeover card to sort of take over the whole discussion and impose their will upon the story. And by doing that and by finding clues and doing quick time events, you get like points also. So the goal is to like progress through the story, but the actual goal of the game is to win by getting the most points by either guessing the hidden agenda holder every time or getting your hidden agenda through.
And there is a single player version of the game.
Yeah, but it's not a very good story.
I'm just saying, I just want to throw it out there. There is a single player version of the game. Okay. So you would think that Emma and I would be really taken with this game, because it has that gold standard of Talk This video game attributes. Local co-op.
Yeah. But unfortunately, also your hosts, Madelyn and Emma, do not have like 8 friends they can just invite over to their home at any.
Can you imagine if I tried to invite 8 friends into my apartment? Can you imagine?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like you can do it with like your family. I guess it's a holiday game.
Seems like a really bad idea for a holiday game.
Everybody can play together. But that's the only time in my life where I would, because I watched a couple on YouTube because I was curious about like the PlayLink system, and I saw one where there were just like 3 people playing it, and it just like didn't work, right?
Yeah.
Because it just didn't work with 3 people having the hidden agendas, because you always had a good chance of guessing who it was and all of that. And then I watched one with 9 players. Double Fine Productions did a Halloween stream of them playing
cute.
it. So I watched that. And that seemed like it worked a lot better. But the key is sort of when you're playing that version is that you can't be too invested in the story, because a lot of the hidden agendas will take you in bad directions. Some of them won't, but some of them will.
I just think it's interesting that it's more of a virtual party game than like really a video game.
Yeah.
Well, because you really shouldn't be paying attention to the story at all if you want to win.
That doesn't not make it a video game.
No, I know that, but it's just, I feel like it's more in common with like board games in a lot of ways than it does with some of the games I would actually think of as choice-based.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird system, because they wrote a very serious murder mystery case with lots of moving parts that, honestly, it's pretty easy to not be invested in the story, because if you don't pay attention for a second, you don't really know what's going on anyway. Which is a weird thing for like a party game. But, Yeah,
it does seem interesting to choose something so serious like a murder mystery and then having you try to manipulate people completely sort of independently of story.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you could have picked something a little more low stakes. So
yeah, honestly, or even, like, I think, honestly, like, if Until Dawn was a little shorter, that would work better, because it's basically just, like, the cliche horror film story. So,
yeah, and that's fine. That seems more suited to this.
Like, bunch of teenagers in a cabin, like, they're doing silly teenage things, like, whatever. But, yeah.
Yeah, this game did not get very good reviews, as far as I could tell. I was reading some of them. Mostly for these reasons that we've outlined. Like, the story's not very interesting on its own. And, like, you just have to do horrible things sometimes to get your hidden agenda through.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have too much replay value, from what I heard, either.
Yeah, I did watch, like, a couple of streams, and the hidden agendas were the same for each of them. And I was wondering, like, if you play it again, is it the same thing? Because then, like, you know what the hidden agenda is. It doesn't matter who has it. You just go to the other thing.
And that's, on some level, how much does the game cost? Like $20?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, you'll pay almost that much for a single movie ticket, at least here in, New York, and other wealthy bastions. I get that not everybody pays that much for a movie ticket, but, like, that's not that expensive when you think about it. It's like, oh, I'll have 8 friends over, and it's like I'm buying each of them a ticket to this experience.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, like, the story does change. Like, it can end, like, really suddenly if you, like, die in the game, but based on a choice you made. So it feels like the hidden agenda should be different each time, so that there's a possibility, at least, of the thing changing. And how hard is that to make, like, the hidden agenda different? I don't know.
I know, it seems like you should only have to make 100 of them instead of 20, and you've covered most people.
Yeah. Like, nobody's gonna play it, like, 8 times. Well, maybe somebody is, but probably not. But if you want to play it, once, twice, 3 times, maybe, I feel like you could make enough hidden agenda cards to do that and still have some variation.
I've also read that one of the best ways, really, to get the upper hand in this game is to be good at the quick time events.
Yeah.
And that makes my blood boil.
You get a takedown card if you win the quick time event.
What is the point of it being a game of convincing people when in the end it's going to come down to who can hit the X button fastest?
Well, everybody gets one to start, and quick time events it's on your smartphone, so they're actually, like, you drag your cursor over to the place on the screen that's supposed to go, but you can't see it on your smartphone, so you have to do it while looking at the screen, so it's a little difficult.
It just seems like a way to handicap old people.
Yeah, well...
And by old people, I mean anyone who...
Yeah, I mean, I did read an article about it that was like, someone was like, oh, I thought it would be a great thing, bring my friends over, we'd play it, but he's better, he plays more video games than them because he writes about them. And he was like, I was waiting every single QuickTime event because they didn't understand what was going on or what was happening. And so he just had a bunch of takedown cards. But I think that if you're playing with people who are around the same skill level, which, take that or leave it if that's even possible, really. But once someone plays a takedown card, you can play a takedown card to take down their takedown card.
I get that.
So it's not like someone plays it and that's the end necessarily, but
this doesn't feel like a video game that you play with all your friends that you play video games with.
Yeah. It's
right?
like a casual one.
It's like a game that you play. It's like, oh, we're going to play this at Thanksgiving this year when everyone's bored and really full and we're waiting for the pie to come out of the oven. Or we're going to play this on that, like, second day after Christmas when everyone is still, like, weirdly on holiday, but, like, it's not Christmas anymore. And what do you do? Right? Like, or we're going to play this on vacation this summer. Or that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels like it's tricky because, like, okay, somebody owns a PS4, right?
Yeah.
And the person who owns a PS4 is not a I mean, like, they can be a casual gamer, but they're not like a casual gamer.
Yeah.
Right? They've bought a PS4. They've heard of this game. So it just seems like, okay, that person at least has some video game experience and knows what they're getting themselves into, at least. Whereas, like, your aunts and uncles that you're playing with, well, maybe ours would know what they were doing, but, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Great Aunt Sally doesn't understand how to text.
I don't know if Great Aunt Sally would agree to play if she doesn't know how to text. But
that's fair, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean.
I just think it's interesting that you create this game that is ostensibly a party game, and it's because it's a choice-based game. You have to have QuickTime events. Like, who put that in the choice-based game requirement list?
I don't know. People who said that choice-based games weren't games, so they were like, "Here's some freaking gameplay, man."
No one does.
I think some QuickTime events are fine. I don't have the vendetta against them that you do, but I don't love the way that the hidden agendas work. But I think for Supermassive, they were like Until Dawn, like, everybody played it on YouTube, right? And it's the sort of game that is probably more fun to play with other people because it's so sort of campy and ridiculous. So maybe they thought, like, oh, well, let's see if we get how far we can push that. Like, the idea of, like, playing something silly and campy with other people and making that itself into a game.
I agree with that. I will say that when I read about this game, what it most reminded me of was, like, when they introduced, like, Batman or something at E3 or some conference, they had, like, everyone play, like, together.
Yeah, crowdlink.
That sounds horrible, and this game sounded just a little bit like that.
People, crowdlink is a lot more, usually, than this game. But I've seen people streaming Telltale games who did crowdlink and sort of let their viewers do it, which is sort of the point, I think, of that system. Yeah, I mean, it can be frustrating, but, like, you know, people were fascinated for so long with that Twitch stream of Pokemon where everybody put in a button input and moved the guy in different ways. So I think it's just, like, a different form of enjoyment than, like, just, like, playing through the game.
No, but then I would say it's like, why do we even need to assign hidden agendas? Like, if you've got 8 or 9 people in the room, somebody's already trying to, like, screw you over. You know, like, somebody's decided, like, oh, I'm going to ruin this for
but sometimes
your
hidden agenda isn't bad. Sometimes the hidden agenda is the right choice.
No, I know that, but I'm saying, like...
Or the quote-unquote right choice.
By the time we've reached the number of players this game sort of requires to be fun, is the hidden agenda really even necessary? Or will you already sort of develop your own hidden agendas?
Well, maybe, but I think it also is supposed to, like, introduce a sense of mistrust around the players.
Fair enough. I just think it's interesting. I think it would be interesting to, like, have a game like this where you didn't even have that and see if it developed anyway, because I think it would. So I guess
and then you stop being friends with that person because they're clearly a jerk.
Yes, that does seem like... No, not necessarily. Sometimes it's fun to just, like, be like, no, I'm going to play this video game the worst way I can possibly play it.
It's fun for that person, not for the other people.
Fair enough.
It's like what are those things called in Minecraft where people, like, get into your server? Like griefers, is that what they're called?
Maybe.
Just, like, they're having fun by ruining the game for everybody else.
I guess.
Therefore, stop being friends with that person.
But if it was a lower stakes game, that would be fine, though. Like, if it's not like a murder mystery where you're trying to let the criminal get away.
Yes, that's true.
So I guess we should try to mash up these two games, huh?
Yeah, I've already told everybody who listens to our podcast on both the episode where we picked this and the last side quest episode that it doesn't work. It's not. This is like the worst mashup possible that we could have gotten.
It's difficult because Donkey Kong does put us once again a little bit into that sort of Tetris situation. There's not very much to pull out. Like, what are the elements of Donkey Kong you can pull out? You can say, okay, we've got Donkey Kong, we've got Jumpman, we've got Pauline. Jumpman jumps over barrels.
He's got a mallet.
He does have a mallet. Maybe you could do some kind of, like, crowd-controlled Jumpman.
Like the Twitch Pokemon stream?
Yes.
I don't know if that would work very well, because at least in Pokemon, like, most of the time, just walking doesn't murder you. But in Jumpman, like, if you jump wrong, you're dead. And then you start over.
It would be like a finesse thing. It'd be like a rhythmic gymnastics of video games.
What?
Where it's not just like the brute force of Pokemon. Where you're just moving around. It would be really, you would all have to be like teamwork, working together.
But then, of course, as you said with a Hidden Agenda, there's that 300 people on the thing who are like, you know what would be fun for me if I ruin this for everybody else.
Fun, but then you make it a local game. You make it you can only play with like 8 people.
Okay, that might work better. Yeah, but still,
I don't know how it would actually work.
And then you do actually stop being friends with that person. After they ruin it for you, you kick them out of your house.
But not on purpose. You stop being friends with that person who's bad at the game. You're like, maybe you should just watch.
Oh,
didn't make the team.
Savage.
No, that's a bad game. That's not a fun game.
You know what, Jeremy? I think you should maybe just watch for a while. Thanks. Oh. Okay, Jeremy. Thank you. Why don't you get us all some drinks or something?
Yeah, Jeremy, we're out of snacks. Chop chop.
Or alternatively, you could have a murder mystery in which Jumpman has killed Donkey Kong.
Or in which Donkey Kong has killed Jumpman.
And maybe you don't know. Maybe one of them is dead, but you don't know who. And you have to discover the truth behind their sordid history.
I have an idea. What if so it's like Hidden Agenda in that you got multiple people playing. So it's set up like Donkey Kong, except that you don't know it, but one of your friends is playing as Donkey Kong, like throwing the barrels.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a bunch of Jumpmen, and you got one person playing as Donkey Kong. Or maybe at some point 2 people playing as Donkey Kong. And you have to guess who they are. And so it's a game of deception of pretending that you're like, oh man, Yellow Man. Oh, Yellow Jumpman. Like, close call.
I feel like, though, well, you'd have to have, like, 2 AI-controlled Jumpmen if, like, 2 people were playing as Donkey Kong. Because otherwise, like, someone would be like, no, I'm the yellow Jumpman.
No, I am. It's a matter of who do you trust.
Okay, but also, like, you'd have to make sure, like, the movements on the controller were, like, exactly the same.
Well, no one is looking at your controller because they have to be looking at the screen.
Well, as soon as they know that they have to find out who Donkey Kong, of course they're looking at how other people are doing the controllers.
Right, but you have to find out who Donkey Kong is while also staying alive.
Okay, but you can look away from the controller for a second and notice who isn't doing the jump action. They're just pressing the X button to throw a barrel.
Well, fun. Well, but the jump
I'm just saying there's a couple of kinks that need to be worked out.
The jump action is just X.
But you have to move. You don't just jump in place.
Fair enough.
Donkey Kong doesn't have to move.
Donkey Kong's D-pad is disabled, so they can pretend to press the buttons, but they don't actually
that's
move.
Pretty complicated. It's just a thing. Some kinks you'd have to play test out.
I think that this is an interesting concept, though.
Yeah, sure.
It might not work that well for, like, Donkey Kong specifically, but some other game where you could, like, be the enemy and people wouldn't know.
Yeah. There probably is. Well, it's like Mafia, sort of.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to create Donkey Kong Mafia. Diddy Mafia.
That's funny. Just they're out there, their long trench coats and their sunglasses. That's what the mafia wears, right?
I don't think so.
What does the mafia wear? Oh, pinstripes. Yeah. They walk into the joint like, give us your money. That's what the mafia does, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not part of the mafia, so I don't know what the mafia does.
Wow, look at that hidden agenda right there. Emma pretending she doesn't know.
Okay, this is entirely off topic, but where's the from? That's like New York mafia?
Because there's Italian.
Like Italian mafia, but isn't there also the Italian mob, or is that the same thing?
I thought they were sort of the same.
I don't know. That's why I was asking.
I use them mostly interchangeably. For better or for worse.
Yeah. Well, in Yakuza, there's also the Chinese mafia. So.
Right, the triads.
Yeah. Yeah, the triads. There you go. I should have known that from Arrow. They talk about the triads all the time. Yeah, so that sounds like those are a couple of good ideas.
It's a lot more successful than we thought we would be.
Yeah, I think I'm still more partial to the, Who's Dead, Jumpman, Donkey Kong. You have to investigate, and in the end it turns out that Pauline kills them both. Because she was like, stop it. I gotta go to work in the morning, guys. I don't have time for this kidnapping shenanigans.
Well, awesome. We've got some great game ideas to close out the year on.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
We've been so thankful for all of our listeners this year. Keep telling your friends about it. Subscribe. Listen to the episodes that you've missed. We think they're all pretty good.
Yeah.
Except one. Not going to tell you which.
This one.
Hidden agenda. Wow, rude. We're looking forward to more Talk This in 2018. It's going to be a big year for Talk This.
Mm-hmm.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, if you haven't already. All of those except YouTube are at Talk This Podcast or /
YouTube
Talk This Podcast.
Talk This Sisters. And that'll be getting new content in the new year eventually. So look forward to that.
You can also check out our website, which is www.talkthis.com. We have all of our episodes there. You can get the link to them. You can read our blog. You can see the show notes that I am going to catch up on in the next 6 months.
Fun, fun, fun. And if you want Talk This to change it all going into the new year, be sure to let us know. Let us know what you like and what you don't like and what you wish happened. And you want Emma to talk more? Oh, yes, I know. But, co-hosting, gotta let Val do her part, all that stuff. Okay.
What the heck?
Just kidding. You want Emma to never do Game Summary because she just sort of devolves into nonsense halfway through. Okay, I understand that also as well.
Send us an email.
Thank you.
It's talk to us, right?
Talk to us at talkthispodcast.com.
You can also leave a review, although if you're going to leave a bad review, we'd prefer that you email it to us.
Yeah. Bad reviews should be emailed, but if you got a good review and a good rating, that really helps us out on iTunes. On Apple Podcasts. Speaking of which, did you already say this? We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Spotify, as well as our website. So, got tons of listening options if your friend is like, oh man, I don't have an iPhone, I have an Android, and you're like, that's fine. They can still listen. But the last thing we have to do is, I didn't actually bring the hats with me, but so we'll have to do like the number on the website thing.
Am I picking, or you want me to pick?
I got it open, so you can just give me numbers. Give me a number for the old one.
2.
Disney Skate Adventure.
Yes!
How does that song go? No, we can't do it. We can't hum it.
Which one?
I don't know. One of them. They're all super cool.
Da-da.
Top tier video game
Romeo.
soundtracks. Disney Skate Adventure. Okay, now you have to do the new game.
19.
Player Unknown's Battlegrounds.
Oh, great. Those seem like those are going to go really well together.
Also known as PUBG, as I read it whenever I see it. It's PUBG.
Yeah.
But I go PUBG. So look forward to that in the new year. But first you'll be getting a side quest next week. And then 2 weeks from now you'll be hearing us talk Dissa and PUBG.
On the 1-year anniversary of Talk This, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have a birthday party.
No, we're not. But if you want to send us cake, we do not have a box for that. So you can't.
Just enjoy some cake on your own.
Yeah. And yeah, thanks so much for listening. Should we do a New Year's countdown? Let's do it. Ready? Are you doing 5 or are you doing 10? 5.
5.
Okay, 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Have a great New Year.